Welcome back to our 8-part series on leadership for AEC. I'm Ralph Montague from ArcDox, Secretary of the BIM Hero DAO Leadership Council. We have two objectives with this series. One is to introduce our community to our newly elected Leadership Council for the BIM Hero DAO, and our second is to develop the next generation of digital leaders in AEC, which is our mission, vision, and purpose for the BIM Hero DAO. Over the 8 weeks, we've been exploring different aspects of leadership. I want to encourage all of those who are listening to who want to pursue leadership for their personal life, their career, their project teams, or business to take our free 30-hour CPD learning program for leadership development. It's a great start, but as you'll probably have heard a few times during the series, leadership development is an ongoing journey. This week, part 7, we're going to be talking about innovation with integrity, and we want to explore how to align creativity, innovation, and a drive for progress and growth with our core principles. The challenges we're facing in this rapidly changing world, which is focused on speed. We want to ensure that innovation serves the greater good, not just the bottom line. Our focus is on cultivating innovation that is both bold and grounded, in other words, driven by curiosity, but also guided by conscience. And the principle that we want to look at, integrity, is we don't see it as a constraint to innovation, but as a powerful engine leading to regenerative growth and transformational outcomes. And so the goal really is to learn how to build better systems with coherence and responsibility. Now, unfortunately, we had 2 speakers for today, but one of them has been unable to connect to the platform. But we have ALShimaa Allam, who's a structure engineer and a strategic portfolio and technical integration manager for AA instruction. We also had Ian Rogers, who was going to join us. He might join us as we go along. He is the director and quantity surveyor and project manager for Procync. So, ALShimaa, do you want to give a quick introduction to yourself and maybe some initial thoughts on this idea of integrity and innovation and how those work together?
I started my life as a structural engineer. I graduated from the college with high grades, and I had unusual exceeding my colleagues, even in school before college. When I graduated, I thought that this is it, and we are going to the world, and I finished everything in a good way. And I found that engineering world is different. I have to learn a lot of things. By then, I started to make a plan for myself, what I need to track, and what I love the most. By the way, I graduated from engineering because I love engineering. It's one of my hobbies. So I had to make a good plan for an exceeding structural engineer that reinforce himself during his journey is, I will not say learning only, learning and the practice, because engineering is definitely depending on practice. It's a practical science, and it needs to be practiced and be up to date both. So you have to learn and have to be continuous in your learning, and you have to exceed journey by good practice. Good practice in engineering has a different aspect. Okay, so I made a plan. The more you make a plan in engineering world, the more you find something new. And this is my advice even for the junior now. Have to keep learning. Keep learning is one of the most weapons you can take in your life during your professional life, career. In all aspects of engineering, not structural engineering, all of this. All the remarks around me have hinted that I have a good management and leadership skills. So I had to go this road also. So I think I graduated since 24 years, and I had earned many certificates. Started with engineering standards, and then in the BE, and I moved to management, in construction management and project management, and then it ended by MBA for the general management and leadership.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, I suppose like an engineering perspective is quite interesting, because if you think of these two words, integrity and innovation, innovation is almost suggesting that you're pushing the boundaries, taking risks, trying to discover something new, like you're pushing hard forward. But then as an engineer, of course, what you do has can have very serious consequences. So on the other hand, you have to do it in a way that you don't take too many risks and you don't do anything stupid that might hurt people. So in a way, it almost sounds like integrity and innovation are pulling against each other. What do you think about that?
My opinion, on the contrary. On the contrary, my way for creativity and innovation, started when I was young. I think after 3 years of my graduation, I have been taking charge of a team for high-rise building. And actually, for my surprise, usually they were my friends in the college. I found that structural engineer is fighting with architectural engineer. Big fights, huh? We are speaking about a high level of fights. And they are taking and consuming so much power in it. Started with integrity. And I am emphasizing on this expression. I have tried to make some kind of coordination, like we learned at the school. Why? What is the need of this party, and what is the need of this party? And from this point of view, the coordinative skills, or the conscious to have a final good product and the focus on it, this is integrity. I have created a very good system for this high-rise building, me and the team, and they were very, very happy and proud of this. Very highly compatible. In the beginning, structure team have decided that this architecture is not applicable. It's not only that it was applicable. The architecture have taken my ideas and developed it much more better design, the same way.
Yeah, so I mean, so as an engineer, you're really encouraging people to kind of look ahead, push forward. But I suppose, if you look at how the world's changing so rapidly now with AI and blockchain and all these technologies that are just coming at us at a rapid speed, how do you balance sort of the experimentation at the cutting edge with the responsibility that you have as a professional and an engineer, or any professional? I suppose it applies to any professional. How do you balance the experiment?
First, you have to stay steady. You don't cope up with any negative feelings that you may suffer from high speed or a lot of information coming from everywhere without back knowledge of it. Number one, stay steady, and then study carefully what is the new thing, what is the updates, how we are moving to with these digital updates. Is it benefit or not? Then put a plan, see the consequences. Lean with the learning curve. There is no one big for to be a student. Never. We will be a student up to the end of our life. This is main advice to cope up with digitalization and speed of change and updates of standards. You will be always learning. You will be in the engineering world. There is no end for learning. It's a continuous development, professional career.
Yeah, but I'm sure you get colleagues in your profession, who say, I don't trust the computer. I want to see the notebook with all the calculations. I don't. They want to hang on to the way they understand. And because they have a trust in the way they do things, even if it's older and slower, whereas they maybe don't trust all these new technologies because they don't know what's happening in the background. How do we know the calculations are right? Or
To have doubt in yourself. First beginning, I think this puzzling question you asked, this is a very good question, by the way. To have doubt in yourself. If you are a modeler, structure analysis engineer, and you finished all your steps one by one and all the checklist, and I have a good product, a final product. And I think it is right. Always have doubt. If you had doubt, you will search. If you search it correctly, you will verify. Okay, and this is the key point. Key point between manual calculation and old aging thoughts. This is not bad at all. This is a very, very, let's say, solid knowledge. We all depend on it to update ourselves. Still, updates is highly, highly magnificent and highly, highly efficient in time, in even updating the standards itself. So the first thing is to verify. Put a plan for verification. If you have doubt and search it carefully and with, let's say, persistence in the standards, you will have definitely the right answer.
Fantastic. Have you got an example of where maybe you were sort of pushing the boundaries or experimenting, and an issue of integrity came up? Something that most people would think would limit development, but actually the issue of integrity helped the innovation, helped the idea to move forward. Do you have an example like that?
I have a very good example. It was in Egypt with my first preheater, and we have received the reason that we moved to design the preheater in Egypt. It was a conceptual modeling and with a very bad modifiers. Any structural engineer existing in the audience here will know that modifiers in the modeling steps is highly important. The modifier was not set correctly, and this can destroy the modeling itself and the result coming afterwards. So we started we wanted to make something better. So we communicated with the conceptual designer issuance, and we asked him why this is existing. And he said that this is according to his code, or the code of standards in his country, in his local country. From here, we took it and we make a lot of verification steps to put the modifier on the top and the right modifier on the top, back reference with all the standards that we decided for the project from the beginning. And actually, he didn't want to, let's say, confess that there is a problem here. Okay. Afterwards, we took the design and we put the modifiers, the right modifiers, and we updated the model. It was actually not only fitable to the design, the mechanical design engineer by then, he was the main coordinator instead of architectural. It was much more optimized. The last of it, the end of it.
Yeah. So the end result is better because you've been diligent.
Because you have a conscious, you doubt yourself, and you move forward to the right, let's say, search before you even have to verify.
Yeah. That's kind of, I suppose when I think of the word integrity, it's to me, it's like doing what you say, because often in projects and in project teams, people are full of words, they're all excited and
Yes.
we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that, and full of promises, but then in the end, half of what people say never gets done, because they ran out of time, or they just didn't feel like it, or whatever. So for me, the word integrity means if you say something, that you actually do it rather than. There's a famous quote. Edmund Burke is an Irishman who said, "What you do speaks so loud, I can't hear what you say."
Yes, I know.
I like that quote because the world's full of empty promises, but so I think for me the word integrity and what it brings to innovation is if you say you're going to do something and investigate something, or that you do it and you do it properly and you don't take shortcuts, and you don't take unnecessary risks. I think you have to take some risks in innovation. I think that's the nature of innovation, is you have to push the boundaries. But so it's a bit of a balance.
It's not risk. It's usually
well, there are risks.
Innovation, it's adventure.
But they should be well considered, and like you shouldn't be careless. And
Correct, 100%.
So that's why I actually see these two things as tensions. Like they're pulling against each other, but they're not necessarily bad. Like if you have no integrity and all risk, then you're going to make some stupid mistake, or you're going to cause some harm to somebody. If you have too much too much pull, you're going to do very little. So you have to find the balance somewhere between.
The balance usually never stay in the comfort zone, in my opinion.
I
will tell you, this is a very, very common see situation that I meet every day, not every day, maybe every short while in my career. I meet someone from my age. He is totally satisfied by himself. He is the best of the best, and I am not a young person. Okay, he's in his comfort zone, and I am the best. And suddenly he is shocked by a very big problem for a small technical issue. Okay, and the how you act in this situation is the governing factor. Is that you go out of your comfort zone. You are not the best. There is something wrong, and maybe this issue can take you to another learning curve, or another, let's say, subject that you need to study, or you will stay in your comfort zone and you choose and face the problem, and you are the best. Actually, this is the key. The key usually that makes, or at least makes me different, makes me feel different from everyone in my age, that I'm out of the comfort zone. Usually have a new thing to know, a new thing to explore. This is new edge I have to reach, and so.
Yeah, of course, the comfort zone can be different for different people. So some people are quite comfortable exploring and doing crazy, adventurous things, but they're not comfortable when they have to be diligent and thorough. So the comfort zone can be different for different people. So you need a little bit of understanding of where people are. Is that you enjoying it?
At last.
Well, you've missed a great conversation so far, Ian, but it's good to have you here. We've been talking a little bit about integrity and innovation. We've talked a little bit about the tension between the two. So innovation, pushing the boundaries, taking risks, moving forward, integrity, maybe being diligent, being careful, assessing risks carefully. But we also said that they don't necessarily compete with each other, that they're helping. And ALShimaa had some great examples of where being diligent has actually helped innovation. And of course, as an engineer, she also talked about her experience as an engineer, and which is critical, when you're making engineering decisions, that you don't do anything stupid. So what about from a project manager and a quantity surveyor's point of view, like, well, firstly, are quantity surveyors innovative, and do they have integrity? I'm asking as an architect.
I mean, yeah, traditionally are more. Yeah, I accept that. Traditionally, QSs are much more reserved because they look at facts and figures, a bit like engineers in some respects. And I think they are slow to go down the innovation route. But I don't regard myself as a normal QS in that respect. As you know, I'm trying to change the industry with innovation and the process. And you're right, it's how you do that innovation whilst maintaining the integrity of what you're trying to do, particularly in construction industry, because construction is complex and many lives depend on it. Because if you get it wrong, buildings can fall over and kill people. So you've got to be careful how you do that innovation. But I think innovation is an inevitable progress of mankind, effectively. If we don't innovate and move forward, we stay stagnant and well, you effectively die in your own right because you're not moving forward.
Yeah. I'm sure you've come across many examples where, let's say, the need for, let's say, saving money or meeting the budget or, delivering on time, is considered more important than, overcoming a risk or some dangerous situation. So like in those situations where the bottom line is, seems to be the key thing, rather than the success of the project or the safety of the team or anything like that. How does integrity, does it hinder or does it help? Or
I think for me, integrity is a given. You have to have integrity to move forward. But I think innovation must be at the forefront of how we develop a construction project, even if it's just a simple thing like site logistics. That needs its own innovation, particularly if you're working on inner city projects. You have to innovate to be able to produce that building in the first place, particularly where you've got buildings that maybe say the footprint of the site, where you've got no area for logistics to be run. So I've done inner city projects in London where everything had to be done off-site because we could only have one lorry on a gantry at any one time. So therefore you had to have your coordination and you had to have everything properly done. Otherwise, the site just couldn't function. So you had to bring innovation to make that work, even on a basic level, because you had to think outside of the box as to how you were going to service a fairly big building with just one lorry on site at any one time, because we weren't allowed to park on the road.
Yeah. But I'm sure you must have had situations where people say, look, why innovate? We know how, we've done this for 20 years. We know how it works. We understand the procedures, the risks. Now you're trying to introduce something that's unknown, and the sort of pushback to always do it the way you've done it. How do you?
That is very true. But then you look at how the industry is progressing against other industries at the moment. And when you look at the productivity of the construction industry, it's hardly changed in the last 30 years, whereas manufacturing and other agriculture have increased their productivity by 4 to 5% per annum on average right through that period. So without innovation and staying in your comfort zone of we've always done it that way, which is the traditional mantra of construction, we're falling behind other industries significantly now, which in my opinion has an impact on cost as well. Because if you're not being productive or increasing your productivity, your cost base is staying at the same level or getting higher. Yeah. So I think you have to have an open mind and look at innovation whilst maintaining that integrity of what you're trying to build from an engineering and safety point of view, to try and look at the increased productivity and therefore the better cost benefit of doing it in a new way.
Yeah. So there's kind of an ethical duty care, maybe, on professionals, not to just do something they did 20 years ago, but to always strive to improve, in a careful way, like not in a careless way, but and because that's part of bringing the best to the project is bringing the new ideas that will make improvements.
Yeah.
And if you don't bring the best, you're not sort of fulfilling that duty of care to point to improvement.
Yeah.
You're playing it safe.
There has been innovations from time to time, but it's rare. I mean, the biggest innovator in my view in recent history in the construction industry is London Heathrow Terminal 5, where they turned the whole structure of that project upside down, where the client took the risk. They had very, very ingrained monitoring and scorecard reporting, so they knew exactly what was going on, when, where, and how. They used a lot of modular off-site construction techniques, so they could build as much off-site before it came to site, so that the erection was quicker. They effectively did an upside-down erection where they literally, because they were on a flight path into a landing airport, they literally constructed the roof on the floor, jack that up, then the next floor, jack that up. So they brought in a lot of innovation, not only in the structure of the contract, how they performed the contract, but in the technology they used. And that project pretty well came in on time and on budget. I know we always remember the issues with baggage handling when it opened, but forget that piece. The actual physical building of a very big infrastructure project, and very complex one, was done using innovation, and probably wouldn't have succeeded without innovation. But were the lessons learned from that project ever taken anywhere else? Probably not.
Well, I think the whole BS 1192 standard and all of that came out of that. So you could say it took a long time, but
took a long time. But the way that
it took 30 years, but we've learned something from it.
Yeah, we learned some things from it, but the way BAA took the client role and changed it. I know they were a big sophisticated client and they knew what they were doing, but there are other big clients that could do equally as well, and it's never been repeated other than a few attempts in Canada.
Yeah. What about Egypt? What's happening? Because people might look at the pyramids and think, how the hell did they build those things? Thousands of years ago. We're still wondering, is innovation increasing or decreasing? What can Egypt teach us?
If you are taking the pharaohs as examples, this is a hard one. You make it harder for the whole world. In my opinion, I'm not encouraging or narcissist or something to my history, but you have taken a very bad. You make it hard for the whole world, the whole world. Those people were something in some place, and we are in some place. We are trying to catch here and there with their potential, but no, it is still on the contrary. Egypt is one of the richest countries by its capital asset. Usually, Egyptians are innovative. We are very, very innovative. Most probably, the problem always in the overall potential, with the extreme problems in economics and change of supply chain and change in the whole world. It is harder, the potential to come out and support those people. But usually Egyptians are very well known that they are innovative even with the smallest potential existing around them. Let's hope for the better, but there is a lot of updates here in Egypt, and we are still on the road. We had a new capital, complete new capital. Still, there is a problem, but we are changing and we are moving. Obstacles, issues, as you may say, but there is a lot of innovation existing here, and we are young people, and we are trying to always to keep from the.
What advice, ALShimaa, would you give to a young engineer who wants to sort of push ahead in their career, be innovative, be at the cutting edge, but also doesn't want to sort of give up on their core values and purpose? They want to compromise just to move ahead.
Okay, from the integrity, take 3, keep it in your pocket. Be honest, okay? and work very hard. Okay, never say that you are the best. There is no best here. Okay, from the innovation wise, stay updated. Okay, new ideas are always respectable until it proves the counterwise. Results are the only governing when it comes to new ideas. So give it a chance.
Very good. And Ian, from your side, like what do you have any practical frameworks that can help us as teams if we need to evaluate as people present new ideas, or how do we decide as a team what's good for the project, what's good for the industry, what's good for the stakeholders, and who are the stakeholders? Do you have some mechanism when, as a project manager, when people throw a harebrained idea on the table?
Apart from the classic stuff of good, solid, open communication and those sorts of tried and tested things that need to be there at any rate, I think the biggest thing is we've got to open our minds to new possibilities. And I mean, you said when I first came on about we've got, it's always worked this way, it's been like this forever and it works, etc., etc. Well, my belief is it isn't working. That's why we haven't increased productivity and we're not moving forward. That's why we're not attracting the people into the industry that we should be attracting into the industry, particularly females. And even when they do come in, most females do not stay because of, certainly in the UK, the bigoted beliefs that the industry portray on them. So we've got to have a much more open mind to be able to move things forward, because I think that new blood is needed to open up the possibility of innovation and look at things in a different way to what we're currently doing.
Yeah. I mean, do you have an example of when there's been a clash between sort of an innovative idea and sort of a challenge on integrity? Something that comes to mind, just as an example to people that where there's a difficult decision to make.
I suppose here's an out-the-box solution. A project I was involved in. In those days, I was operating as the operator side of the equation on a big PFI hospital project, and the basic design had been done, and we were looking at it from an operational perspective to see if it would work. And we were looking at the throughputs that we had to achieve to get visitors through the hospital and in towards them. We had certain metrics that we had to meet. And we realized, because of the size of this hospital, that the lifts were not going to carry that capacity, and we'd fail in our KPIs because of the lift capacity, which technically was not directly our issue because we weren't designing it or engineering it. But we pointed this out and said, look, this isn't going to work. And as a consortium, we're going to fail every day on our KPIs of throughput, people visiting, because we just cannot distribute enough with the lift capacity. So the engineers and the designers went away and said, well, we can't put any more lift shafts in because the building design is too advanced at this stage to do a wholesale chain of bringing in another. I mean, basically wanted to double the capacity.
Mm-hmm.
So they went away and came back with an innovation that I'd never heard of before and freaked the living daylights out of me. But basically, they ended up engineering 2 cars in every single lift, in each shaft. So all you had to do was build a double depth pit and a double depth lift motor room on the top, so that both could go right up. And you had these 2 cars that were literally doing whatever way. So it was all computer controlled. So when a floor picked a car, the computer sent the nearest one, taking into account what the other lift car was doing in that lift shaft. It's unbelievable innovation coming from America. And that was forced because we as the operators had to say, look, what you've designed at the moment is not going to work. So yes, there is the ability to innovate, but you have to almost force it through.
Yeah. You've got to get beyond the problem and sort of focus people on the solution. I think I find quite often people are very quick to criticize and tell you the problem, but
yeah,
they very seldom bring a solution along.
no, exactly.
To the discussion, yeah. So it's
yeah, and that project, because we as operators were there from the inception of the project pretty well. We challenged a lot of engineering aspects of that project and brought change. Some of it was innovative, like the lift shafts, but some of it was basic essentials, like, you know, we were going to be there for 40 years. How do we get the boiler out of the 18th floor plant room as currently designed? Well, it was physically impossible. So they had to redesign and bring it down to modular on every 5 floors of an 18-story building. You could call that innovation, but it was challenging the norm to what was being done. But that is a rare example of how that was working, because the team were on a different trajectory to a normal project, because they were then going to have to operate that building for the next 40 years.
Yeah.
So they had to open their mind.
It would have been quite innovative to ask all those questions before the design progressed too far.
Absolutely. Do it.
Rather than wait until you've built the lift shafts.
Yeah.
Always in the prison. Always say, I don't know.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we were there from the early days, but some of it had been cast because of the way the site was and the size of the site. Because it was an existing inner city centre hospital, so they were restricted on floor plan at any rate. And obviously, they're trying to maximise the number of beds that they can get into the hospital. But yeah, if we hadn't have been there at all as operators, then there would have been some serious problems with that building.
Yeah. Before you joined us, ALShimaa and I were talking about, the word integrity for me means like doing what you say you'll do.
Yeah.
And I always find on projects, people make all sorts of promises at the beginning. We're the best team, we're very collaborative, we do thorough investigations, blah, blah, blah. Lots of promises, but then like the human tendency to leave everything to the last minute, sort of kicks in, and people end up not doing everything they said they would do. I mean, what does integrity mean to you, like, and in connection with innovation?
Well, I'll give you an example of what integrity isn't, which is how contractors used to operate many years ago when they were bidding. And it was a known entity to the point where clients then forbade that happening during the tender process. But they would have a team, an A team, which was the best of every single operative in the company in terms of project manager, QS, or what have you. And they would always go in all the proposals. They would go to the interview. And then when they won that job, suddenly that team was not available because they were already on other projects, but they were the best to win the bid. So clients started clocking this in the UK and eventually said, what you put in the bid is the people we will have on site mandatorily. So people had to change how they were looking at this in the end and put the real team on rather than the best to win the project. And that raises a whole issue around integrity, because the intention was to win the bid at any cost by putting whatever they had to into the bid. But there was no intention of delivering that to the client at the end of the day, which really undermined the whole integrity basis.
Yeah. It's lying in a sort of white lie kind of way. I knew they're not going to put that team on the project. But,
And then when clients had so many times when the team that they were promised didn't arrive, they realised what was going on and they changed all the tender conditions. But it took the client to force that into an integral or an integrity issue rather than the contractor being in integrity in the first place by declaring his hand and saying, well, we've got these people, but they're currently elsewhere engaged, and looking at it from a different perspective. I mean, you may have been able to put in a mentoring structure where the best people are always there working on their projects they're currently working on, but had the insight to be able to work on the project you were bidding on with the team that was being put forward. So you always had a mechanism, or there's ways of looking at it from an innovation point of view, but it was never thought.
Yeah, fantastic. Right, let's we're coming to close to the hour. So ALShimaa, do you want to give us some closing thoughts? BIM Heroes community is trying to be innovative. We're trying to bring about significant improvements in the AEC sector. We want to do that with integrity as well. Like, as a member of the Leadership Council, what's your advice for AEC professionals listening to this podcast? Yeah, how do we do these two things? How do we challenge the sort of status quo and dysfunction of our industry, while at the same time doing it with integrity, not carelessly?
The most important thing, or the most beautiful thing in BIM Heroes, that it is innovative in itself, as an idea, as even as a procedure. It's not a very common idea to have this kind of organization or community. I think also my advice for innovation is always to participate. The more we participate, the more add the mindset there, and the more all our members will be keeping the track on innovation and actually being better, updating. It is an update itself. For integrity, we have to always and trust that this organization wants to make us better, and it is for making us better. It's high value that will make us all forward in a very good way. Sometimes aslan it goes to the other side of the integrity, the perfect way. Actually, this is not achievable, but usually this happens with me. This is what happens with me. I want to make this perfect, and this it will not finish. But actually, from innovation, it forces us to be integrated. In my opinion, it's not contradicting at all. Just don't be the perfect man. You will not reach there.
Well, I think that innovation never ends. Just like leadership development never ends. Like, it's an ongoing journey. And Ian, you and I have had lots of fantastic conversations about fixing a dysfunctional
industry
or broken system. For you, what are your closing thoughts? I mean, you're also on the leadership council of this community that's trying to do something innovative, but also trying to do it in a way that's not careless or reckless or gonna hurt anybody. It's trying to. What are your closing thoughts to the community and to others listening?
I think the community and the wider industry has got to be open to new possibilities. We have to change. The industry cannot stay as it is now. It's gone beyond sustainable at the moment in how it's operating. We're losing too many people out of the industry, and potentially good people out of the industry. We're not attracting enough new blood in, and we have got to change and make the industry far more attractive. And that is a number of things. That's the culture of the industry's got to change, as well as the innovative practices that can be brought to bear. We've got to be open to those innovative practices, both in communities like this and to how we function and how we communicate, but also on site to how we can improve the constructability of buildings and the speed with which they can be put up in safe and sound environments. So I think the key message here is we've got to have a lot more open mind to new possibilities.
And bring those different minds together to those different ideas.
I mean, the beauty of this community is it is truly international across 60 odd countries. So there's a lot of cultural as well as different technologies in all of those countries, and we should be learning from each other the best way from each country and creating a new way that is truly world class.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, it's been a really interesting discussion. Of course, I'm as a person, I'm very interested in innovation and progress and moving things forward. So it's a passion of mine, and I'm also very interested to do that in a way that is sustainable and lasting, and not careless. And so we're continuously pushing for that. So I want to thank you both for your time. It's been fascinating. The whole series has been really interesting. Next week we actually have our last webinar with Larry Briggsmith and Adriana Netruska and Gabriel Martin. So that's also on Thursday next week. So please, to those, tune in for the last one. And thank you both for your time and for the wonderful discussion.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Yes, bye-bye.